Myself and Cedar came up on Sunday because I was so anxious to check on the well and see how things were doing. I brought my pressure gauge up with me, hooked it up, saw that the pressure was pushing 80 pounds, although there is a little bit of air still left in the system, and I got nervous. When I was trying to determine the elevation, I initially used my phone. There's a compass app on my iPhone. I tried to use that, but I kept getting different readings over and over again. So I dug my old Garmin GPS unit out of the closet, put a new set of batteries in it, brought it up here thinking for sure my Garmin GPS unit has to be accurate. So after installing the tank, I was fairly certain I was right around 90 feet above the house.
PSI, and we're about halfway up to the tank.
The pump in those 4 panels is more than adequate, getting that much water up the hill. I worked with Rural Power Systems very closely and they helped me figure this out. By the way, I have to say this about Rural Power Systems. There were multiple times where I reached out to them after hours and they always responded to me. Now, one of the things that Mike, who happens to be one of the owners, clarified was, of course, they want to see me succeed, but they would offer the same sort of support to any other customers that they have. So initially, Mike recommended that I check the angle on my solar panels. I figured out my solar panels were way off, so I adjusted them. The end result is based on the pressure. I knew the tank had to be quite a bit higher than 90 feet. I downloaded an app, ran the app over and over and over again, both up at the tank and on the front porch. And I concluded that I was over 150 feet higher than the house. So I had a couple of options. I could either move the tank, which would have been a heck of a lot of work, but I was willing to do it, or reach out to Rural Power Systems again and see what they thought. After talking with Mike, he helped me figure out that we could bump that pump up to what's called an RPS 800, which requires 4 more solar panels and a slight modification to the pump. And because the well pump is what's called a modular pump, it was very easy to make the adjustment. So I'm just waiting for those 4 solar panels to show up, and then we're back in business. We will have right around 75 PSI there at the house, and the truth is that's almost high enough to put a pressure regulator in. I may put a pressure regulator in actually inside the house in the utility room. In the meantime, I wanted to get this last little section on the hill cleaned up. I want this lower 5 acres to be cleaned up, and I want to be done messing with these trees for a long time. I got the excavator up on the hill, doing what I've been doing since I got the excavator, and I happened to bump a dead tree. Now this is what happens with these trees. They either start to lean over trying to get sunlight, or they die off. There's a number of trees that have these branches, also called widowmakers for a good reason, just hanging off of them. Now the tree that I grabbed, I didn't realize there was a dead branch hanging off of it, and after bumping it, that branch fell down and busted the window on top of the excavator. The truth is, this is something that happens probably more often than it should. Having a window up there on an excavator is a little bit prone to this happening, so it's not the end of the world. That piece of glass is about a $350 piece of glass, but I'll figure it out. Now, I would rather that dead branch fall and bust the window out in my excavator than hit me on the head, or hit one of my kids on the head, or hit an animal for that matter. So I have to look at the positive, although I'm a little bummed out after the last couple of days. But it's just part of the process, working through the challenges. I almost didn't even come up and work today. The good news is I've been able to pick up most of the materials that I'm going to need for my ground mount system for my solar panels. I'm going to start building that tomorrow. The other solar panel mounts for the well will show up on Friday. I'll get that finished up. And I think I've decided what type of shed I'm going to build around the water tank. My goal before it gets cold is to get the lower 5 acres that I've got fenced cleaned up. Part of the reason I want all this dead and dying and the immature trees torn out of here is I guess for a few reasons. Number one, I know from last year that once I remove all this stuff that grass will come back. Now the goal, the short-term goal, long-term goal, whatever, is to have animals that we can feed here, raise here, and ultimately feed our family with. And I want to get grass growing up here. As soon as I have this hillside cleaned up, I'm going to put a pasture mix on it, a pasture seed. But the other factor is we had a mountain lion maybe a week and a half ago down on the road. And so from time to time we have predators around here, mainly mountain lions and bobcats. We really haven't seen anything else as far as predators that worry me about my, having kids wander around or whatever. So by cleaning up the hillside, I should have a way better line of sight up here. But again, by eliminating these trees that are competing for nutrition or competing for sunlight against these bigger, healthier trees, I'm hoping that these trees will fill out and will grow. And again, these trees we hope to utilize for syrup. But I'm trying to get this all done before this hillside gets slippery when we start having rains. I think I've got maybe a half a day's worth of work on this side and I'll be done. But the next project I'm going to do tomorrow, I have most of the pipe already, is get my solar panel mounts built. I need to get the concrete finished. It's been a little bit too warm to work on that side of the house. The sun beats right off that Tyvek and reflects right onto me. And it takes an 85-degree day and turns it into about a 105-degree day. And it's just too warm right there. But it's starting to cool off. I can tell the temperatures are changing. Next week it's supposed to be in the low 70s all week. And so I got to get that finished next week. The other thing is the concrete. We'll have more time to work that concrete once the temperatures drop a little bit. So tomorrow I'm going to finish my solar mounts. And these are the solar mounts for the house. The 3 solar mounts that we're going to put 9 panels each on it, and I think I've got all the materials to do it. I'm going to fabricate these myself and kind of go over the process on how I did that. So that's my next big project, is to get the solar panels mounted, and then I'll be done with the hillside cleanup. I'll have some piles that I have to burn, but other than that, it's been a little bit of a bumpy last couple of days after busting that window in the backhoe and almost having to move the water tank. I guess I feel like I kind of, after the monumental victory we had last week, I almost feel like this week was a bit of a waste of a week, but it's all part of the process. I guess you can't bat 1,000 every day. So anyway,